All right, excellent. So we're recording and we're live. So welcome to this week's Playing to Win. I'm super duper excited to have an amazing guest, Brady Sandahl, with us today, who is not only an amazing, extraordinary, talented, successful real estate owner in Palm Springs, and it's the Coachella Valley there. I think your team's got the top team 2 years in a row or something I was reading about, which is amazing. You're also the director of growth for all of KW Luxury. And I've seen the major changes you're making in our company. So I just want to say good morning and welcome to the show, Brady Sandahl.
Melanie, good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for the warm introduction. And like everybody, we wake up looking for an owner who wants to be a seller and a shopper who wants to be the buyer. And I have the privilege of leading 15 phenomenal people in Palm Springs. And, Melanie, what I'm most excited about is to be here with you because you're one of my favorite individuals in our company. And I'm thrilled that we get to spend the next few minutes together.
Me too. Me too. And I'm so honored that you gave us your time because I know how busy you are. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I love what I do with the editing to the podcast from this session because the listeners will be exposed. So there's somebody out there that may not know you. And I love having amazing people like you on the show to get your story out because I think your story is pretty amazing. So I want to go a couple directions with you today, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's just jump right in. So I was on your bio here, and I just want to start with that because I thought that was really cool on your website. I was reading, and at the end of your website, what the consumer sees, you have on there with a focus on creating positive, successful experiences for every client. Our service-oriented approach to real estate and our incredible expertise make us one of the best choices around. We know what it takes to find the most luxurious Palm Springs real estate listings in the Coachella Valley and to embrace the upscale desert living experience you crave. When I think about Brady Sandahl, and the more that I work with you and get to know you, the more I'm really drawn to you. To me, you're all about leveling up in the experience, and just the wording in that really, really spoke to me. So can we start back up? Like, where did all this come from? When did you get into real estate? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, well, Melanie, certainly thanks for visiting the website. We love when people from all over the world go to bradysandahl.com to learn about our story. And the story started from a very simple family out of the Pacific Northwest, my family, who was in the real estate hotel business. And at the early age of 5, I was exposed to exceptional service, not the most expensive service, but the best service. And my parents always believed that the level of service they offered their customers would determine the level of customers they would get to serve, which would influence the amount of profit that they would need and be able to earn. So I quickly, at the age of 5, learned that you always had to add more value than what the consumer was expecting. For example, and Ron, here's the deal. So I would have a lemonade stand. Now, most children would probably have a lemonade stand and they would sell lemonade. But what I did is I actually included a ticket to a circus act I would do later that afternoon. So not only did they get great lemonade, but they also got a seat back for the circus act. And then at the circus act, I would sell them another beverage and include some popcorn. So I'm programmed to always be looking for ways that we can add more value, because when we add more value, not only does the consumer get a better experience, and not only do we make more money, but Melanie, everybody has more fun. And I think we just have to get back to the fact that in our more mature audience, consumers define luxury as the price point. But our younger consumers are defining luxury as the experience. And I think that Keller Williams is doing an amazing job of showing up with their big servant hearts and literally surprising and delighting their consumers throughout the relationship, so that everybody has a better experience going forward.
I love that. Okay, we just need to back up to the little lemonade story, okay? Because so beautifully articulate. But how old were you when you had that lemonade stand, my dear?
5. I was 5.
At 5 years old. Okay, so because I did the same thing. I put on show. I just love you even more for telling me that. But think about that, right? Most people would think it's it's that sale. It's that one sale. And yet you at 5 years old turned it into a ticket to an experience where then you could make another sale and make another experience for the people.
Well, and here's the difference between you and me, Melanie. See, you have talent. I can't sing and I can't dance. So what I did is I encouraged the other kids in the neighborhood to be the circus.
Ah,
This was the host of the I can't sing. What's in my head sounds so good to me, but it is flatter than the desk that I'm working from today. So the difference between you and me is you have a lot of talent. I just have the ability to bring the right people into the circus and let others experience that show.
well, my dear, that is a talent, right? That is a
Well,
talent.
it's
Called
it's
the
a more of a
ringleader.
it's a combination of Melanie of facilitation and bribery.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So
Those-
maybe you threw in a free lemonade and a half a
Yeah.
popcorn or something,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah,
love that.
that's
I
right.
love that. And for those of you that hear us during this conversation that aren't seeing us or are watching us live on Facebook, we have some guests watching us live. You're going to hear him say Ron. Ron Lane is one of our guests listening in the audience. And Ron is a luxury agent in Reno, where the market I started my career in. And Ron and I were actually modeling partners and dear friends in our late teens. And we went off and I signed with LA Models, moved to LA. He was in Italy. And so it's really fun how we both of our paths came back to KW. So you'll hear Ron engaging in the conversation too. And Ron will be a guest on a future episode once he's written his book about his amazing story. So Ron, we're happy to have you in the audience today.
Absolutely.
Okay, Brady, let's keep going there. I love that. So take us, what happened then after, so you have this entrepreneurial, you just got me with that. I love that idea, you took the experience to another level. What happened then after school for you? Where did Brady Sandahl go?
Well, it was a long journey between 5 and 18. And I think my parents were programmers of, structure. So I was convinced at age 5 that when you were finished with the circus act, you would also go to, McDonald's, and rather than eat the Happy Meals, you would build planned developments with cheeseburgers and French fries. And that's really what I did. And then for a good time, Melanie, I would work the weekends at the Street of Dreams with my dad, and I would sit there and greet guests at the house. And so the question was, welcome to the Street of Dreams. Would you like a cookie? And then the next question is, would you like to buy the house? Well, that the art and science of asking questions, I learned at the age of 5. And so not only is the level of service we offer going to determine the price point we get to serve, but the number and level of questions we ask will determine if and when we get paid. Now, the problem is that people that get into sales think they have to know everything. But realistically speaking, you just have to know the right questions to ask and make sure you're asking them in front of the right people. And when you can make that connection that it's not about you, but it's about what you ask of the people you're serving, you're going to win so much faster. So ages 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I would always be most excited to go to a Street of Dreams, an open house, a new home community, because I loved the art of providing a better service. And I was excited about walking real estate homes, seeing the architecture and seeing how that real estate does create the lifestyle that people aspire to live.
So is that what your dad was doing at the time? Were you parents in real estate?
My father was in real estate. He was in real estate and hotels. My mother was a PTA president, and at a very early age of 9, she turned to my father and said, listen, I don't want to stay at home. So either you have to stay at home or we're getting a divorce. She's like, I don't want to hang out with these PTA ladies. I need to go do something. So she went and volunteered at the local hospital, and she started as a volunteer, Melanie, and then she ended up running the ER admitting trauma areas for the hospital.
Wow.
She's very servant oriented, and she loved working for the hospital. In fact, when she retired, and my father ended up passing away in that hospital, the day he passed, there were hundreds of employees that came out in front of my father's room and lined the hallway as a tribute to him, but also to the legacy, because she had spent 30 years of her life serving the community and so many patients during some of their most difficult times that they've ever gone through.
Wow, what wonderful role models for you, Brady.
Well,
huh?
but let me tell you, she was not a raving fan of real estate. I mean, her first thing was, why would you do this when they don't have healthcare and 401k? And why would you go work with a bunch of crazy people? Well, I mean, listen, I love crazy people. I won't say that I specialize in them, but I admire the personalities, all 9 of them, that they bring to the call every time. So it's fun.
Oh, I love it. That is so funny. That is so true. Okay, so then when did you decide to get it? Did you do another career before real estate? Like a lot of us had another career. Like I've had another career. Ron's had other careers.
Yeah.
Other
Well,
people.
I have the award, Melanie, of taking the most time to sell the first home. I have this award. I became licensed in 94.
Okay.
And I sold my first house in 2004. So for those of you who aren't good at math, that's simply 10 years. So it took me 10 years to sell the first home. And so I jokingly say, well, what was I doing? Well, I was working for companies, many brands, Nordstrom and Microsoft and University of Phoenix, the list goes on, all great companies with a strong Seattle presence, with one commonality. I had the pleasure of building relationships with those CEOs, working to be the extension of the brand they wanted to hit. And that really, at the end of that 2001, 2002, 3, when I stepped out of that career run, I knew that this was the time to step into real estate. And so I started in Palm Springs, California. And the interesting thing is I'd never been to Palm Springs, California.
So you're not from there. You grew up in Seattle, or where'd you grow up?
Portland, Oregon, and Seattle.
Okay.
And as you know, with Portland and Seattle, that means a lot of rain.
Lots of rain, yes.
Lots of rain. So my last year in Seattle, Melanie, we had 187 consecutive days of rain. Now, the word to focus on is consecutive. And that means that you just had 6 months of rain. So I, like every logical person, jump on the computer, start shopping for new cities, end up in Palm Springs and started. But what I realized is I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the market, but I knew how to serve. Mm-hmm. And so I led with my big servant heart to fulfill a need that I saw the market wasn't filling itself, which was elevating the level of service, meaning elevating the photography, elevating staging, elevating the brand, the consumer experience, surprising to all of that allowed me to build a business. And as we built that business as an individual agent, I realized that you build a team because you have more business you can handle,
right?
Or the balls start to drop, right?
Yeah.
Or you want to build something bigger with people. All of those 3 elements has allowed us to grow to the 15-person organization that we are.
That's amazing. Okay, so I see, this is why I have people like you on the show, because I already think you're amazing, and I love learning your backstory. So I did not know you were new to Palm Springs when you started your business and you moved here. So I love the story that you had so much rain, and you probably Googled where's the least rain place I could go. And my grandmother lived in Palm Springs, so I know exactly the temperatures you're living in, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Okay, let's talk about then. So the theme here is playing to win on our live that we're on now, and then edited to the second half podcast. And both of those have the same mindset, that the idea of playing to win instead of playing not to lose. And the second half is, no matter how you set yourself up in the first half, which is really important, it's very important, but it's never too late to change it, because it's the second half, how you show up. Whether you win or lose, or how much success, how high you go, right? It's a decision. It's not like you can just stop doing what you're doing. You're just always working on, you're either leaning in and growing and exceeding expectations and adding things in service and things like that, or you're not, and your service starts going down. So what does playing to win look like for you? And just kind of that concept of either way, playing to win or the second half.
I'll address both. One of them will be a mic drop. You let me know which one it is.
Okay.
The playing to win, to me, means you've got to be really clear on what winning looks like, sounds like, feels like, shows like. And I had the pleasure of, well, it wasn't true pleasure all the time, but I swam for 11 years. Would swim up to 4 hours a day, you know, going from one end of the pool back, one end of the pool back. And you start to realize that when you're just focused swimming, right, and you're just in that element, you're in that zone, all you can think about is winning. You've got to think about just getting to that next flip turn, that next stroke, that better time, that better outcome. So I'm just programmed to always be playing to win. I'm not programmed to outbeat the competition. I'm not programmed to worry about what they're doing, because in my head, the competition isn't the other agent.
No.
Everything else the consumer could spend their money on. It might be retail, it might be travel, it might be transportation, it might be college education. That's the competition. So to provide the value for the consumer, I've got to be very clear on what the consumer wants in that experience so that they spend their money on that experience of buying real estate. Or if they're going to sell that real estate, then what would that money do for them? Now that's playing to win. And I'm pretty much programmed like that every single day. I'm not a motivational person. Now, maybe you may say but I'm a very disciplined person. So I really focus on not falling in love with motivation, but falling in love with discipline, because discipline creates the results we want. Now, the second thing, that second half, so I've always believed that this is true. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The meaning of life is to find your gift. I spent the first 50 years finding my gift. The next 50 years, the purpose of life is to give it away. So on my 50th birthday, I accepted the position as director of growth for Keller Williams Luxury, because I knew that the second half of my life would be giving away everything that I had done in the first 50 years. Now, we may not open up a circus lemonade stand. We may not do that. But in the first year of that second half, we've repositioned Keller Williams to becoming the #1 company in the United States who sells the most luxury. How? Because now we've opened up our entire luxury platform to every lady and gentleman inside the organization. And in our first year, Melanie, we've tripled the amount of luxury sales we've had in North America. We're selling almost $260 million of luxury real estate, defined as over $1 million, 260 million of that every single day in the US and Canada.
Every single day.
Every single day. So while we're closing 1.4 billion of real estate every day, 260 million of that is luxury. Well, we've done that in a year. Imagine what the next 49 years, I'll be the guy coming out on 100 years old on the stage. You know, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we need to do. But I'll be doing that until the curtain comes down, because that's the legacy. That's the focal point. So that's why this is behind me, because I spent 50 years to figure out my gift. And then the second half to your title is to give it away. And every day I'm giving it away. I've been on the phone now for 2 hours this morning. It's pretty early. We start at 6:30, making sure 3 things happen. Number one, that our ladies and gentlemen in Keller Williams know that they can sell more luxury with our company than any other brand. Number two, that our owners, investors, and our agents understand they can expand their market share to help more people. And number three, that we are attracting the talent that we want inside Keller Williams to continue our success as being not only the #1 sales company on the planet, but the company that sells the most luxury on North America.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, what a beautiful answer. I absolutely love both of those answers. They're both amazing. And I especially love that you accepted that position on your 50th birthday. That's really cool. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because $260 million per day in luxury real estate, like the 1.4 billion just blew my mind when I heard that the other day, right? Which is something like 300 million more per day that we're doing as a company. But the fact that 260 million of that per day is luxury, million plus, whatever the local thing is. But let's talk about that, because I think one of the things one of the questions I wanted to ask you is what made you then, here you are #1 in Palm Springs and Coachella Valley, and you've got a great team you've built, and you'd already been showing up as a leader on panels and different things like that. But what made you want to take that? Well, you just explained a little bit on your wall, right? But why KW Luxury International? Because that's a pretty big reach and it's a pretty big grab. And man, I have seen the impact that you are making big time. So
Thanks.
So
Well,
please share that a little bit.
Yeah, the goal, playing to win, was never to be #1, because what does that do other than your own ego?
Right.
Playing to win was to provide the best experience for the consumers we serve. And by providing the best experience, which is a leading indicator, the lagging indicator being #1 showed up. Now, what I'm most excited about being the #1 team 2 years in a row is, here's what I'm excited about, that every time we sell a house, we're keeping on average 21 people employed. I'm in a city where a year and a half ago, our unemployment was 43%. I had more people employed because of the homes I sold than some of our bigger businesses had employed.
Wow.
Meaning that inspectors and escrow and title and lenders and agents and all these people employed. So I'm excited that every time we sell a home, we're keeping on average 21 people employed. Now, I had been with 2 other brands, Remax, good brand, Sotheby's, good brand. Both brands were very limited in opportunity. And so I realized in 2010, when I opened Sotheby's, that it was a good brand. It's a great logo. It's a good brand. But to fulfill that second half of giving back, there wasn't a vehicle. It was simply too small. So in 2015, I interviewed over 50 brokerages. Some of those brokerages have already been sold. Some of them have closed. Some of them have been acquired, what have you. But everything led back to one goal, which is, what is the company that would be large enough that I can make the biggest impact on? What was the Nordstrom of real estate? What was the Ritz-Carlton of real estate? And what I realized is that Keller Williams was the largest, not the best. We were the largest. And we weren't the best because we didn't talk about what best looked like. We're private, we're profitable.
Right.
We have to toot our own horn, but I realized that this was the company that probably sold more luxury than they realized, which is true.
Which you revealed, which was not necessarily something we all knew.
No, and something we weren't ready to accept. We were still selling corn dogs at the county fair when we had actually been serving caviar on the G5. So I wanted one organization that would be large enough, one organization that I would never need to leave. I could achieve the goal of giving things away inside our Keller Williams family. So as soon as I sat down in the room of Mega Camp and listened to Gary, I sent the text message to the manager and said, I'm coming over to join you because I want to work for Gary. Well, that text, Melanie, what 5 years later is when I accepted that position. So we know that we're all simply 5 years away from being who we want to be, impacting who we want to impact, right? We're only 5 years away. This is the company, Keller Williams is the company that when you put your hand up, you literally can find opportunities to make a difference so that you can give your own gift away. And candidly speaking, be rewarded for it. Yeah. My reward is when I get a text message from an agent and says, because of what you told me, I just got the biggest commission check of my life, $74,000 commission check.
Wow.
Now, on another note, not as exciting, but very rewarding, someone came to me and said, I loved listening to you today. I was thinking about ending my life today. But based on what you shared, I now see that I have a pathway to find my voice. Yeah, Keller Williams is the company for you to find your voice. And boy, if we wrapped our arms around him and now he's living his best life, that moment was only 26 days ago. And already he's living his best life. You see, what we focus on does expand. And when we're focused on the wrong things, boy, it can go down a dark road. So here's my point of that I selected Keller Williams because of the culture. I selected Keller Williams because of their opportunity. And I selected Keller Williams because I knew I could make a difference in the lives of people I serve.
Well, that's a beautiful answer. And that is exactly what you're doing. And I love that. It's funny, when I moved to Austin 10 and a half years ago, and I was talking about why I wanted to go to Austin, why Austin? I've never, why go to Austin? I just come back from Germany, was living back in Tahoe, and why not back to LA? And I said, because I want to go, I want to put KW back on the map in Austin, and I want to work for Gary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just funny. It just maybe articulated differently than I expected. And it's been exactly right. It's like, that is exactly, it's the company of opportunity. And it's people like you, Brady, that are coming into the company and then leveling us up, because you're just revealing what was already there, and you're helping us articulate it in such a better way. Because I think about, like, remember, I just want to talk about for a minute, it was the membership club, right? And you would qualify if you did this amount of production, and then you paid a check every year. And that was one of the first things you did, is said, we have so many more luxury members that are not in the club because they're not seeing value in the club. But what if I added value and you made it more of an earn-in, and it's based on the property? So if you get your first $1 million listing, guess what? You get to play in this arena. So talk about where you came up with that, because that's huge impact on all of us.
Well, I think, as you pointed out, that in the former model, which we had up until the first part of last year, you basically gave Keller Williams a check or a credit card, and that unlocked you into a room of opportunity. And I can appreciate that model because it worked for so long, but over the course of time, it lost the value. And so I said to Gary, well, the market data won't determine our outcome, but it will determine what we need to do to get the outcome we want. Well, we realized that we had 10,000, almost 11,000 agents who are actively selling luxury, who had decided not to be in the program.
Right.
Well, okay, so if that's the issue, then what's that about? So I led a task force to determine, an assessment of value. And we realized that the value of that model had lost its shininess. And we had to reposition for a couple of reasons. Number one, I do believe that Keller Williams doesn't have to be the #1 luxury real estate company. I do believe that. But I also believe that Keller Williams should be the company who sells the most luxury. And there's a difference. When you're trying to be the luxury real estate company, the focus is on the company. And when you are aspiring to be the company who sells the most luxury, the focus is on the consumer. And we have two consumers. We have the agent consumer, our internal customer, and we have the external consumer, which is our buyer and seller. And so we made a position statement that is, the property needs to qualify. So every county in the United States has an established luxury floor. And when any agent, regardless of where they came from, when they list a property that's above that luxury floor, we give them the resources they need to market that as a KW luxury listing. And we do that without charging them. And then once they've had 4 closings, we celebrate them by having them automatically earn into the room called Keller Williams Luxury. Well, we've had over 9,000 agents earn in, which means they're actively selling luxury, and we're celebrating them. And of those 9,000 plus, thousands of referrals are taking place.
Yeah.
People moving to Los Angeles, to Austin, and moving from San Francisco to Reno. But that's when the power of the Keller Williams network goes into action. Yeah.
I love that. And I think how you've rebranded it as the House of Excellence. Let's talk about that. How'd you come up with that, my dear?
Well, the House of Excellence truly is who we are, but more importantly, it's how we do what we do. The House of Excellence is a collection of standards rather than suggestions that we are going to hit and are hitting. Brand standards, language standards, marketing standards, experience standards, all of those standards lead to the foundation and the framework as the House of Excellence. And that gives a vision and a framework for who we are, and more importantly, what we do, and most importantly, how well we do it.
I love that. And I told you that after we had our first meeting, I went back and I'm really proud of the website I shared with you that we've worked hard for the Northwest Market Center personally. And I took that and I thought, you know what, what's the experience of our agent, right? What's our agent experience with us, and how do we make it easier for our agents to find all of these amazing things that we have, right? And let it beautifully packaged is one of your things, right? You want to deliver it and it's easy to find, it's beautifully packaged. And so I think that your influence in our company is impacting all of us a lot more than you think, and or maybe can even realize. I know you know that it's impacting, but it's impacted me, and I'm really, really happy to have you on the team. So I just wanted to let you know you've impacted me, my dear.
Well, thank you. I want to tell you that every time I come back from a trip, and I'm traveling extensively to our market centers around the country, it looks like the North Pole, because there are stacks of cards and presents. And I'm not generally one with guilt, but I will tell you, I'm guilty of not getting through everything and then back to everyone. But the cards and the inspiration, I recognize that I'm literally in the right chair, helping people live the lives they want to live.
Doesn't that feel good?
Yeah,
That you're totally
great.
in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, I'm watching the clock. Is there anybody, before I wrap up with the rest of the questions, would anybody in our studio audience like to ask a question? And I will check on the live stream. Ron, you got something for us?
Man, I'm just overwhelmed with all that he has. All I want to say, Brady, people like Brady, impacting a lot of lives that affect all the way. For example, he came here to support me to do a fundraiser, local Children's Cancer Society. So he has a cause and effect as his agents. It's expanding that we have from coming from contribution. And God bless you for that, Brady.
Ron, you're very kind. You get the credit. So as Ron was saying, Ron put together an event for luxury agents. He aligned himself with a local charity. I flew out and helped deliver a keynote. But what the thing that Ron's not taking credit is it's Ron's concept. My job as director of growth is to support the agents in the market. And Ron truly has a huge servant heart, and Ron gets the credit for the work he's done. I'm just helping build him up and helping him grow as an individual. And that's really why I'm in the chair that I'm in.
And that's the point. That's a great point. What you're saying is that you help inspire, and that is where it's made a big impact. Coming into luxury is one thing, but coming into luxury with a servant heart, wow, it's really taken my business and the way that I see things completely different.
I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is so cool. Ron, thank you for joining this session today. It's so fun to have you on here. Any other questions or comments from our audience? On the chat, it's all basically just saying how much they love what you're saying. So there's no questions. They're just commenting on how awesome. Any other questions from any of our audience? Okay, then I'm gonna keep moving then. All right, so what does it look like now for you? Like, how do you juggle all of these hats that you wear right now, my dear?
Well, when I started with Keller Williams in 2016, I knew that I was coming up on that 50-year mark. And so I had 4 years of prep time, which meant I needed to find people that were as strong as I was in the chairs I held. Now, I was an individual agent, so I need to find someone strong in lead generation, someone strong in lead follow-up, someone great on appointments, negotiation, and service. So I had to find 3 key people that would allow me to basically give that up. And so I found those people. And so we tested that model in over 16, 17, 18, 19, going into 20, so that when the opportunity showed up, I knew that I could step out and not step down. And candidly speaking, I believe that I'll personally close through leverage about $85 million worth of real estate. Now, we typically focus on transactions. So that means I'll probably close, give or take, between 75 and 90 transactions this year. Now, am I in Palm Springs all the time? Absolutely not. In fact, I'm only in Palm Springs about 2 to 3 days a week at best.
Right.
have great people who are extensions of you. Now remember, Melanie, as you know this so well, we've talked about this, that we think that consumers want us. We think that consumers want to know everything about us. No. Consumers want to figure out the what do we do and the how do we do it. Recognize that that's what they really want. The what do we do and how do we do it? Then it's not about us. It's the other people in our world that are extensions of those standards. So juggling balls, I mean, people always say you're so busy. Well, I'm not as busy as people think I am. I may be effective, right? But I'm pretty much sleeping 9 hours a day. I love to sleep. I'm living a very calm, normal life. I fly a lot more. I'm on American Airlines and Alaska Airlines and Delta Airlines a lot more. But for the most part, I'm working, as a normal work week.
Well, that's because you're in alignment with your joy and your passion, and you're making an impact, and you're right. So you have a lot of inner quietness in that too. And that's why you can sleep 9 hours if needed, or however long you sleep, right? And that's the key though. And I think people misunderstand why Gary wrote the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, right? And it's like, not everybody that joins Keller Williams, and I've had this, I've been leading Keller Williams offices for, over 14 years. And I hear again and again, oh, well, at Keller Williams, they expect you to have this huge amount of production. It's like, no, it's just, we have the path if you want to get there. And the key that they always forget is that you can't, if you want to go fast, do it yourself. If you want to go far, take others with you, right? And that's what you're talking about. You had these key people, and it's this leverage, and it's bringing the right people. It's not about how many people, it's about the right people.
Yeah,
and the right people, so you can live this big life that you have now and make a big impact.
Someone asked for the recipe of our success, right? And I think it's answered by 3, if not 4 books. One is the one you already mentioned, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, right? Which gave us the models and the systems. Number 2, we really focus on the one thing, which each person on the team does one thing really well. And number 3 would be the Ritz-Carlton Gold Standard. Specifically, it's called the New Gold Standard. Because what we have are the systems and models of Keller Williams. What we do is the one thing, and how we do it is by the Ritz-Carlton. And then our daily book, our 4th book is Atomic Habits, which is that our ladies and gentlemen won't necessarily rise up to the level of their goals, but they'll fall down to the level of their systems and habits. And when you look at the what, and you look at the how, and then you look at the daily practice of showing up, then it's great. Here's the math equation that everybody has to solve. Okay, most brokerages talk about performance once a week, which means, Melanie, as you know, there are 6 other days we're not talking about it.
Right.
And if we only talk about it 1 time per month, that's 4 times per month, which means there are 26 days we aren't talking about it. In our team, we talk about it daily, Monday through Friday. So we're talking about it 5 out of 7. We're talking about it, if we're going to say there are 20 work days in the month out of 30. The majority of our focus is on our one thing: gratitude, goals, and grit. It's what we call our one thing of the 3 Gs, which is what we do every day: gratitude, goals, and grit.
I love that. I love that. That's so cool. So, some of the listeners might not know what your connection is, and I know we just have a few more minutes, but can you just touch on, why did you bring up the Ritz-Carlton as an example? Because some might not know the history. I know you mentioned you worked with them a little bit. Can you share a little bit more about why you chose that one? And Atomic Habits is another great book.
In brief, I recognize that every brand is fighting for 2 things: an emotional connection with the consumer, and the second is memory retention of that consumer brand or experience. And so we had to get very clear on why people selected us, and more importantly, why they kept coming back to us. And I realized that every brand has a set of standards, and our brand standards are what we call ASPIRE, ASPIRE. And that is an acronym that we refer to as A is anticipate. So brands like the Ritz-Carlton anticipate what the customers need and they give it to the customer before they realize they need it. We do that as well. S of serve is we have to show up and serve our internal customers who then are empowered to serve the external customers. We do that very well. The P of aspire is performance, where we talk about performance 5 days a week versus 1 time a week. We talk about the gratitude, goals, and grit. We do that very well. The I of aspire is inspire, where we do really look to inspire our internal customers and our externals every day. We're looking for the cues and the clues, much like other brands like Tiffany's, David Yurman, Mercedes-Benz, Lexus, how they inspire their customers, we inspire ours. R is respond, where we do have to respond to the people who need us when they need us most. And E is to make sure that we're always exceeding our own potential, because when we're exceeding our own potential, the customer wins as well.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. Is there anything in these last couple of minutes that you would give as an advice to somebody who is maybe in the business, they've been in the business for a while and they would really like to raise their price point or create a better experience for their clients, right? And really get more, instead of just a transactional, right? A lot of agents just go transactional. And I think that you have kind of two sides. Then there's the other side that wants to make it all about the experience, right? I mean, that's the beautiful thing about what we do in real estate is there's so many different ways to do it. And it's about finding the right way for you that's authentic to you, right? So what advice would you give somebody that would like to have more luxury or level up in their business?
Be clear on what luxury sounds like, feels like, looks like. It's not a price point as much as the look, the sound, and the feel. And then to get inspiration, go to other brands like the Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, Tesla, Mercedes-Benz, all the brands that inspire you. And then as you're building out your service platform or your customer experience, ask the question, how would Nordstrom greet a guest at an open house? How would the Ritz-Carlton greet a buyer into their new home? How would the Four Seasons send a seller off as a fond farewell? Think about the luxury brands, because that's the level of service that the luxury consumer is looking for. So everything has to be better. And once you've defined better, put it on paper and remember that you're not going to necessarily be the surprise and delight king or queen. But somebody in your world wants to do that job. And when you've got the standards and the targets identified, they know how to hit it. And we're hitting it in Palm Springs. We have just received our 300th Google review, our 5-star Google review yesterday, which means that we are the #1 team 2 years in a row. And we are keeping on average 21 people employed. But ladies and gentlemen, what I'm most excited about is how we're surprising and delighting the consumers who select us.
I love that. I love that so much. Okay, so this has been such a great time with you. Let's think about your last parting thought here. And you're speaking both to Playing to Win Live and also to the listeners on the podcast of the second half. What's a parting thought you would like to leave with our listeners today on anything we didn't discuss or that you just want to reiterate for the group?
I think that there are 2 points. Number one, Melanie, is recognize that we have carried an enormous amount of weight on our shoulders over the last 18 to 22 months. And please make sure that your mental wellness is in the right place. Make that a priority. You have to make your mental wellness a priority. And number 2, we all need to recognize that consumers ultimately are looking for a better experience. And so we have to get clear on working on that experience and define what that experience looks like. Because really, when we do that, we are really having a better time serving the customers we serve. And we're being more selective on who we want to serve and how we want to serve. So it doesn't matter if you came from money or if you didn't come from money. It doesn't matter what country club or YMCA or YWCA you join. What matters is that ask the question, where does the consumer want to go? How soon do they want to get there? and what are they looking for in the experience? And when you've got answers to those three questions, more likely than not, you can speak to those answers and you're going to be in business with that customer.
I love that. Brady, it is such an honor to have you on the show today and just to have you do what you do for all of us here at KW. I want to personally thank you for your time, and thank you all for listening in today. And I hope you got something out of Brady. I know you did. I have tons of notes. I can't wait to go back and listen again, but just thank you for all you do, Brady. You're a real gift to all of us.
Melanie, thank you so much. And most importantly, thanks for being a great friend.
Thank you. And Ron, thanks for joining us, and all of our other audience. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. That was so fun.
Bye-bye.
Bye.